Welcome along to this week's episode of It's Called Soccer, the show that brings you the biggest stories, the best guests, and so much more. I'm Rebecca Lowe, host of the Premier League on NBC, and this week I'm joined by Liverpool legend and 2005 Champions League winner, Jamie Carragher. Don't forget, we come out every single Wednesday. Subscribe to wherever you get your digital shows and podcasts. That's Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And always leave us a comment as well, wherever you get them, because we love to hear from you. So this is what we've got coming up on today's show. We round up all the big stories in the Premier League and ask, who do Liverpool need to sign this summer? Is it time up for Ange at Spurs? What is going so wrong at Chelsea? And who will clinch their place in the Champions League?
I want Forest to make it. I do. But Newcastle and Aston Villa, they look like they're just starting to kick on.
Jamie reviews Gary's appearance on NBC.
I mean, he's gone over there and absolutely embarrassed us. I mean, he got absolutely schooled.
Challenge Carragher is back with questions from you guys. There's 6 to choose from.
There's another 6.
Another 6?
Oh, Jesus. You know what? I'm struggling. I can't think of anything.
And former Premier League manager and current head coach of Charlotte FC, Dean Smith, joins the show to discuss soccer and settling into life in the States.
I still won't call a full-back an outside back. I still won't call petrol gas.
Dean, you will in about 10 years if you're still here. That's all coming up on this week's episode of It's Called Soccer. Jamie, lovely to see you in a cupboard somewhere in London ahead of your CBS Champions League coverage.
I've been hiding again.
And what's your laptop resting on?
I've got a suitcase. One of the makeup girls here at CBS has allowed me to use a suitcase, and the phone's on top of it. It's not as glamorous as it seems, this podcast life.
I know, but you look amazing. All right, Jamie, just one place to start, especially with you, and that is with Mr. Mo Salah. He has signed that new deal at Anfield, keeping him there until 2027. He turns 33 in June, having joined the club, 8 years ago for it was nearly $50 million in the summer of 2017 when he came in from Roma. And of course, he's become the 3rd highest goal scorer at Liverpool on their all-time list with 243 goals in 394 games. 2 more years of Mo Salah, which is brilliant. When you look now at this entire saga, which has been going on forever, it feels like, do you sort of look at it and think, you know what, everybody played their cards right, everything in the end was done well?
I definitely think everybody's a winner. I think initially I was quite vocal on the fact that I was a little bit disappointed with Mo Salah talking about the situation in public at the start of the season, and then that seemed to stop. So maybe he listened. Maybe he actually knows who I am. He actually listens to some of the things that I say, Mo Salah. But no, I just thought they've both been so good for each other. You know, it's not just like Liverpool are absolutely, can't believe they have Mo Salah as a player, because, Mo Salah's become a completely different player since he's been at Liverpool. So they've both been great for each other. I was just wary of the fact that things getting played out in public when they should have so much sort of respect for each other, because as I said, they've been great for each other. And then it's sort of quieting down. You're obviously going to get speculation, but there was nothing coming from the club. There was the odd little bit coming from Mo, and that just seemed to die down. And finally, I think all the adults have got themselves in a room together and thrashed it out. Because if Mo Salah would have moved on, the Liverpool owners and directors of football would have been absolutely hammered and slaughtered, and in some ways, rightly so. And Mo Salah wouldn't have got too much stick, but I'd have probably looked at Mo Salah and went, "What are you doing? Where are you going to go right now? Don't be going to Saudi. Don't be going to the MLS right now. There's you've got an opportunity still at Liverpool. You're the best player in the Premier League. You've still got this opportunity to win big trophies. Going to win the Premier League this year, and over the next 2 years, maybe you can get another Premier League title and a Champions League. And then in 2 years' time, you'd say, okay, if Mo Salah's maybe not quite the same player he is right now, maybe goes on to pastures new, but he's still far too good a player not to be playing for Liverpool and not to be playing in one of the top leagues in world football."
Yeah, Gary was with us in the studio on NBC at the weekend, and I asked him about how refreshing it is / it's kind of a relief that he is at the peak and he hasn't chosen, because we know that Saudi Pro League want him. We know that the money, I think it would have been 6 or 7 times the amount. It's just such a refreshing situation that he hasn't chosen the money over the trophies, because we've seen it happen a lot recently.
No, we have. And listen, we shouldn't forget that, at the top European clubs, the play paid really well.
True,
and I think
true.
I think that money will be there for them in a couple of years' time in terms of Mo Salah, maybe Virgil van Dijk. And I've almost been seen as someone who's a critic of the Saudi League, and it's probably been overblown a little bit. I've got no problem with a player at the end of their career, going and making a few quid somewhere. They've had a great career. They're maybe not the player that they were. I mean, I just get a little bit frustrated when I see players in the peak of their careers and they go to a league just for the money, and it hasn't, it's never going to have that prestige that, winning the Champions League would have, for one of the big European clubs. So that disappoints me, but, the Saudi League can, offer what they want. They can have their own league, of course they can, and, everyone's entitled to do that. And if they're going to make, players at their end of the career a few quid, good luck to them. But I think for me, that's a couple of years off for certainly Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk the same.
So let's talk Virgil van Dijk. At the time of recording, he hasn't yet signed, or hasn't yet come out that he's signed, but it does sound like it's imminent. So with him and Mo re-signing, with them not really doing any business other than Federico Chiesa last summer, this summer, what are Arne Slot's priorities in that Liverpool team?
Well, it was really interesting because Virgil van Dijk spoke after the game at the weekend against West Ham when he got the winning goal. I only saw the quotes this morning, and he was talking about it being a big summer for Liverpool. Now, he wouldn't say that unless he had an inkling it was a big summer, because I'm sure I can imagine when they're speaking to Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, it's not just about money. It's about what Liverpool's going to look like over these next 2 years, and they're still going to win these biggest trophies. So for him to say that, I think looking at this now, the manager Slot has seen the squad now, and that was one of the big reasons why they didn't go into the market last summer, because a lot of the players came back late because of the European Champions. So he hadn't actually seen his squad. And then when you see the squad, they're going to be Premier League champions. But there are still areas in that squad that need sort of improving. I think left back is one. I think Andy Robertson, who's been one of the great left backs for Liverpool, I think needs help there, and maybe could play the role as the backup, which would still be playing 20, 25 games a season. But I think probably bringing in a first choice left back. I think a centre forward's a must as well, because I imagine the front part of the team is the area that's going to really need a little bit more surgery than others, because I think of the age profile and certain players there and the contract situation. So I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 of the front 5 or front 6 that Liverpool have move on and Liverpool replace them. So centre forward and left back. And for me, I still think Liverpool lack something going forward from midfield, an attacking midfield player. So Bosley does a good job. He's got a great engine, but I think they can definitely get someone in there who can maybe score more goals there. So they're the type of players coming into the team. I still then think you need another 2-3 players in the squad. One of them would be a centre-back, and one of them would be a central midfield player, and one of them, I think, would be a left wing. So even though we're talking about a team who are going to win the Premier League, I still think that they need to bring in 6 players.
Give me 2 names, if you were in charge, and if you had the money to bring in to Liverpool this summer. Who would you love to see? 2 names.
Well, I think we've also got to be realistic, and I think we've got to remember as well, Liverpool's sporting director, Richard Hughes, came from Bournemouth and did a brilliant job at Bournemouth, and you see some of the players that they have. He brought that manager in, Iraola, as well, and he brought Carragher to the club, the left-back, who's been fantastic this season. So he obviously likes him. He must have a relationship with the player and the agent. So I think that one, when I look at that, I look at that and I think it probably makes sense. I think there's a lot of interest from Bournemouth in Liverpool's backup goalkeeper, Carragher.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Because they're going to have Kepa's going to go back to Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's obviously interest there. I mean, listen, the one every club would love was Isak, isn't it? I don't think we're in a position where there's absolutely great centre forwards all around Europe where you can go and take your pick. Do I think Liverpool could buy Isak? I don't know. I'm not sure Liverpool would want to pay that type of money for one player. I don't think it's really in the model. I think Liverpool's model is, we'll get the next Isak. They'll probably be kicking themselves saying, why didn't we get Isak from Real Sociedad? So I don't think they're going to absolutely break the bank for him. There's the lad at Eintracht Frankfurt who scored against Tottenham in the week, and I'm not going to try and pronounce his name.
Ekitike, and I think you can just call him Hugo.
Ekitike. That smacks to me of the type of player Liverpool would sign. I think he's 22. He's at a club who you think would probably be a selling club. He's done really well there. He went to PSG as a very young boy after sort of lighting up the French league as a young kid. And it didn't quite work out for him, but he's still really young. He's got great numbers this season. And it almost looks to me as if the type of player Liverpool would sign rather than maybe going for an Isak.
The next topic I want to talk to you about is the top 5, because after Arsenal beat Real Madrid, that meant that next season, the top 5 that finish this season will be in the Champions League next season, which has opened it up even more. It was already a decent race for the top 4, now an even better race for the top 5. So Liverpool 2 wins away from winning the title, they're of course going to be in it. Arsenal are going to be in it as well. So it's going to be 3 from 5. At the moment it's Forest in 3rd, Newcastle 4th, City 5th, Chelsea 6th and Aston Villa 7th. Newcastle have a game in hand against Crystal Palace Wednesday. If they win that, they go 3rd, Jamie, which would put them 3rd, then Forest, then City, then Chelsea, then Villa. 3 from 5. Which do you think?
Well, I change my mind on this every week, and I think Newcastle are a set to make it. And I actually think if Arsenal beat Real Madrid, I think Newcastle will look at Arsenal and think it's not beyond our wildest dreams that we could actually pip them to 2nd. I don't see Chelsea getting it. I see Man City doing it. And I see Aston Villa doing it.
So you don't see Forest doing it?
I want Forest to make it. I do. But, and as I said, I've said for a long time, they've just lost 2 on the bounce now. And now the next game's away at Tottenham. We're covering that on Monday Night Football. And listen, I think it'd be brilliant for the Premier League to see someone like that. They obviously got great history in the competition, but I just fear we're losing 2 on the bounce. It's a bad time to start losing form. And I look at Newcastle and Aston Villa, and they look like they're just starting to kick on. Okay,
so that means you're going Man City, Newcastle and Villa. And then do you think Forest get 6th in Europa League, or do you think Chelsea beat them to 6th and Forest finish 7th?
Oh, I'm going to say Forest. I really fear for what's going on at Chelsea.
Do you?
I think that's starting to feel toxic with the crowd. They've never bought into the manager and his style, which I think is a little bit, I wouldn't say harsh is maybe the wrong word. The point I'm trying to make is Chelsea supporters are used to having a Champions League winning manager just come into their club. Now, this has changed under this new ownership. You know, the first man they bring in is Graham Potter. Again, everybody else says, oh, it's a great appointment. He deserves his chance. But if you're a Chelsea manager who's been bringing in Mourinho, Conte, Mourinho comes back, Ancelotti, these managers come in, you know, and I just think that an impatient crowd, Chelsea, because of what's happened over the last sort of 10, 20 years, and rightly so, they've won the Champions League twice. So this idea that they've now become a project and, you know, managers who are coming in with no huge track record, and you could even say Pochettino was that to a certain extent, considering what they'd had. But Maresca comes from Leicester in the Championship, so they're not buying into this at all. You know, the man in the dugout or the hierarchy that they've now got in charge, and they don't want what's going on at their club. They want to win right now because that's what they've been used to.
So it's a really tight race. Lots of teams trying to get into that top 5. Jamie's given us his prediction. We'd love to hear from you as well. Put it in the comments and let us know, who do you think is going to make the top 5 in the Premier League this season? Let's talk about Tottenham, which also feels like we might get to that stage as well, depending, of course, all that happens on Thursday against Frankfurt and your mate Hugo. So the pressure, again, was heaped on him after they lost 4-2 away at Wolves, which was awful. They've now lost 17 Premier League games. Actually unbelievable, Jamie. Out of 32. It's unbelievable. More than in any other season, and they're 15th in the Premier League. I mean, it feels like they've been 13th, 14th, 15th for half this season, but I've always felt like eventually they'll get into the top 10, but no, they're still 15th. So it's what everyone's talking about, of course. It all comes down, does it not? Every single part of this comes down to what happens Thursday.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, listen, in our role, I'm always quite critical of players, or if something goes wrong, I always look at the players first, because I think a manager can be isolated at times, and a lot of the focus is always on him. So I don't really like to sort of be critical of managers. One, I haven't managed myself, and, you know, these guys have to come out 3 or 4 times a week and get asked questions and get put on the spot. And sometimes players can be, you know, in the shadows, if you like, a little bit. So I always look when I'm doing my analysis at players, but we can't shy away from the fact that what we've seen from Tottenham this season, even though they've had injury problems, is not acceptable. And it's not just this season. last season, the second half of last season was really poor. So this has almost been going on for 18 months, really, in terms of, poor results for Tottenham. And I just feel if they go out, you're not gaining nothing by probably keeping the manager in situ if you're not going to keep him next season, because you've got to start making plans for next season. What players do you want to come in? What players do you want to go out? Now, I know directors of football are heavily involved in that as well, but I've got no doubt in my mind, someone like Daniel Levy will have been looking and possibly speaking to potential candidates for next season, because if he isn't, he's not doing his job properly. Because and if you're a manager, you'd be disappointed by that. But you can't complain. You know the price on the ticket. And when you perform so badly as Spurs have, as I said, not just this season, but for a longer period, you've got to accept that. It's just nowhere near good enough. And the manager now in the press conferences, his press conferences are entertaining. The last one was about someone leaking the team. Then it was about, I think, something about mobile phones. So every week there feels like there's something. And listen, it must be hard when you're in that situation as a manager. When the results aren't going well, he's probably not sleeping. He's stressed. And then he's getting poked, isn't he, in the press conference. And he's reacting.
Yeah, he is, but I also feel like he's not stupid. He must know. I mean, I'm sure he sees how how everyone is talking about him, people like you and I, and he is saying, there are other good candidates out there. I mean, when you start talking about other candidates for your own job, it's not a good situation. Gary said on NBC at the weekend that Daniel Levy bringing in Vinay Venkatesham for the new CEO. Venkatesham was at Arsenal. I think he spent 4 years in that role at Arsenal when he was on the management team before that. It's a classic Daniel Levy move to sort of give the fans look, I'm dealing with it. Everything's going to be okay ahead of what I'm going to have to do next week. And also bringing in a former Arsenal CEO who had a really good time at Arsenal and was well thought of at Arsenal as sort of a classic Daniel Levy moment. What I'm interested in, Jamie, as well is those managers that he's definitely been thinking about / probably talking to. I wonder whether any of them on the list of the bookies have got Pochettino, who's obviously in charge over here. Oliver Glasner, please leave him alone. Andoni Iraola, Marco Silva, Thomas Frank, Kieran McKenna are up the other four that make up that list right now. Marco Silva in today's news apparently is the front runner. What I'm interested in is from those on the whole, those managers, you get the sense he's going to try and stick with not exactly how Postecoglou plays football with his philosophy, because only Postecoglou does that pretty much. But he's not going to do what he's done before and kind of go Mourinho, Conte. Do you think that's the right thing to do? Try and keep some sort of semblance of continuity if he does change?
Yeah, because it's not. He tried out with 3 different managers, and Nuno was one, and he's having a great time at Nottingham Forest, but they were right to change Nuno. Sometimes a star just doesn't suit a football club. And, Tottenham have always been, even when I was a kid, famed for playing a certain style of football. Now, when I was younger, not everyone played that way. Football was a pretty direct game in the old First Division. But now in terms of the Premier League, everyone sort of plays not exactly the same, but a certain brand of football. I think Premier League supporters now expect that. They don't want to be sitting on the edge of their own box defending and looking to play counter-attack. Those days are gone. And the only reason you would accept that is if you were a team at the bottom of the league trying to stay in the division and you think, all I care about is being in the division next season. I'll put up with going to the game, pay me money and watching this. Nobody wants to watch it. And especially not a team at the level of Tottenham and the stadium they have, in London and stuff like that. So, no, I don't see that. I like the fact that he's looking, these managers they're not all English, but they're all sort of Premier League experience. So we're not talking about some sort of foreign manager who's never been in the Premier League before. I'm sure there will be a couple on the list. And I think it would be really interesting who they go for, because a lot of the talk has been around the Bournemouth manager, Iraola. But I highlighted this on Monday Night Football last night. I think it'd be quite difficult to go from Ange Postecoglou, who likes to play intense football, press high, which does give you a lot of injury problems at a club. Then to bring in a guy who does not exactly the same, but pretty similar, and also has injury problems at his club at times at Bournemouth. Now, that's also at Bournemouth without European football. So you'd have to be saying, okay, Tottenham probably won't have European football next season. But if you're bringing this guy in, you're bringing him in to get you back into Europe. And then you think, well, okay, how's that going to work? If Iraiola's Bournemouth team were playing an extra sort of 10 or 15 games a season, what would the injury record look like then? So I think it'd be really interesting. I'm not quite sure they'd go for the Bournemouth man, because for a lot of this season, he has seemed like the front runner.
So out of those 6, or obviously you don't think Iraola, but the Silvers, Franks, McKenna, Glasner, Pochettino, which you're talking about sort of sometimes a contender or a manager doesn't suit a club, like maybe Nuno just didn't suit Tottenham. Which do you think out of those 6 suits Spurs the most?
I possibly think Marco Silva. I think I'd look at Marco Silva and Thomas Frank, huge fans of both of them. I think Thomas Frank's teams are probably a little bit more direct than Marco Silva's. They have a nice balance, both teams, but I think if you're thinking of going to Tottenham, I'd probably just go with Marco Silva.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by Peloton. You know that moment when something clicks and you realise it is time to take your fitness seriously. For me, that was when I turned 40 and I realised I couldn't just continue to pound the cardio on the treadmill. It was time to do some strength training. That's where Peloton comes in. Whether you're squeezing in a 20-minute strength class over your lunch break or getting a proper run in at the weekend, Peloton has what you need to achieve your fitness goals, no matter why you got started. They've got classes and programs for everything. Running, strength, recovery, you name it. You can do it all at home, in the gym, or even out on the road with the Peloton app. And it's not just about getting stronger. It's about feeling better, building that fitness routine and proving to yourself that you can do it. Plus, if your team's just crashed out of Europe or blown another lead, Peloton's meditation classes are a real game changer for your mood. Whatever it is that sets you on your fitness journey, join our community of thousands of members whose lives have been changed. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com. Right, Jamie, now it is time for our picks of the week, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We have 3 games. We're going to start with tonight's Champions League quarter-final second leg between Real Madrid and Arsenal. Real Madrid 0, Arsenal 3 from the first leg. Give me your score and anytime goal scorer prediction. Go.
I'm going to go Real Madrid 2, Arsenal 0. And I'm going to go for Jude Bellingham to score the goal.
Oh, that will make it very scary for Arsenal fans. Okay, so 3-2, they would go through on aggregate to the semi-final. I'm going to go... Are they going to score? I'm going to go Real Madrid 2, Arsenal 1. And I think Declan Rice is going to score again. I just think he's going to score again. So they're going to go through 4-2. Yeah, so do I. I couldn't love him more. Okay, second one, the Europa League quarter-final second leg on Thursday. Manchester United 2, Lyon 2 from the first leg. What do you think?
I'm going to go Manchester United 2, Lyon 1. And I'm going to go, as a goal scorer, I'm going to go for... I'll go with Højlund.
Wow, okay, how he needs that. I'm going to go for 1-0 Manchester United. I am going to be simple and very straightforward and go for Bruno Fernandes because there is quite literally nobody else. And the last one in the Premier League is Aston Villa against Newcastle United. That's on Saturday. What a game that is, by the way.
I'm going to go for 2-2.
It's at Villa Park. I think Villa might win this. Yeah, I'm going to go for a Villa win, an edgy Villa win, 3-2. Okay, those were our picks of the week, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's Called Soccer is brought to you by our partner FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The European soccer season has entered its final stretch, while MLS is really starting to pick up. Whether you want to bet on the match result, your favourite player to score or assist, or even how many corners there'll be in a match, FanDuel is the place to get in on the action. New customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's $250 in bonus bets. And if you're already a customer, FanDuel is giving out same-game parlay profit boost tokens on this week's Champions League ties for a chance to increase your winnings. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and get in on the action. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And if you win, the payouts are instant. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Now it is time to welcome a very, very special guest. We've been waiting to do this for a while. We are so excited here at It's Called Soccer. A tough centre-back by trade. He made over 500 appearances in the English Football League. After hanging up his boots, he turned to management at Walsall, at Brentford, Villa, Norwich and at Leicester. He now calls North Carolina home as the head coach of Charlotte FC. A very big It's Called Soccer welcome to Dean Smith. Dean, it is so lovely to have you. We are so grateful. We know it's your day off, so even more grateful. I'm going to get into the football in a minute, Dean, but you're there in your apartment in Charlotte. I just want to know a little bit. You've been there since December 23, so about a year and a quarter now. How's American life for you? What do you make of it?
It's good. I actually really enjoy it. It's good fun here. I mean, I'm kind of fortunate. My son moved over here 8 years ago to go to college, so we've been coming backward and forwards, and we got to know North Carolina quite well. He kind of skipped. He went to NC State for college, and then he started playing pro. He played in Asheville. He played in Greenville. So he's kind of done a lot of North Carolina and South Carolina. And we were coming backwards and forwards that much. We decided to buy a holiday home in Myrtle Beach as well. So. So, when the job offer came up, it was kind of like, made in, it was meant to be, so to speak, that we came here.
That's wonderful. And your son coming over in 2017 to college, as you say, and kind of going through that system will have taught you and given you really a grounding in just how different the pathways are over here in the United States to what we grew up with back in England. So do you think that helps a little bit, that you've sort of seen his career and how he developed, that just gives you a little bit of a sort of a grasp on football, soccer in America?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, before Jamie had come out to the US, he was an apprentice at Walsall, and then he was looking to get a pro contract. I ended up advising him to go to America, and you can go and get a degree, which he managed to get, and he ended up becoming a professional as well, and he's still doing that. So it's really good for him. But as you say, it just gave me an insight into college life here, because in the UK, players at 21 years old have sometimes made 150 appearances, whereas at 21 years old now, they're still getting drafted and coming from college. And, so their life coming into professional football is a little bit later than it is certainly to what I've been used to.
Let's talk about Charlotte then. You came in December 2023, took them to the playoffs. This season, 8 games in, doing pretty well, Dean. Second in the Eastern Conference. What have you learned from that first season that has just changed maybe a couple of things that you've done into this?
I think you're learning all the time. I wanted to come and challenge myself. I'd not been abroad and coached abroad before. I'd only ever coached in England. And it was a great opportunity to come out here. A big club, an expansion team. It's only the 4th season. So there's a lot of things that we're still learning and getting better at. But last year, I just felt the players, the squad, it was a good squad. We could become hard to beat. We were very organised. We probably didn't score as many goals or take as many of our chances as we could. And that's a thing that we've worked really hard on this season. A lot of the teams play very similar as well. A lot of them want to press high, and a lot of them want to play out at the back. And it can become a little bit predictable. So we've tried to become a little bit less predictable than other teams. Certainly, getting a good DP was top of the list, and bringing Wilfried Zaha over here has certainly helped us. Because how I look at the MLS now is that there's a lot of good teams, but some have got some stardust at the end of it. And, Miami won it last year with their stardust. And I think that stardust can actually, get you into that top 4, which gives you a home playoff tie.
Well, let's stay on Wilfried Zaha. I'm a Crystal Palace supporter, so of course I am absolutely. I think he's just, I worship the ground he walks on, to be honest. And maybe when he left Palace for Galatasaray, it didn't really happen as he would want it to for those couple of years. How is he, when you look at him in training and you see him in the games, Dean, how much is he obviously he's all in, he's going to be all in, but how is he kind of, his body language, the way he is around the club, is he enjoying this? Is he looking at this, do you think, as sort of a moment to kind of remind everybody who Wilfried Zaha is?
I think that's the challenge for him, and that's why he wanted to come here. Just, as you say, Galatasaray, I think they won the league the first year, but Then obviously a change of coach and it didn't go so well. And then he went to Lyon on loan and that didn't go so well. So it's important for him to come here and do well. He's not really found his rhythm just yet. He had to go back because his wife gave birth to a baby. They're actually over here now. But the one thing I can say about him, he's embraced it straight away. He's well liked in the dressing room. He's well liked around the training ground. A real humble guy, but he's one of them voices in the dressing room. I've got Ashley Westwood, who obviously played for Villa and Burnley, as a voice, and now I've got his voice as well. And they demand high standards, and they continue my voice in the dressing room, which is good.
That's interesting. So much experience with Ashley Westwood, Tim Ream and Wilfried Zaha. And then you talked earlier about some of the players that you'll get in and that will be in MLS are just so inexperienced. So can that be a difficult thing to manage, the huge experience against the lack of, or does it actually complement each other?
It complements each other, but you are at scale, and I see this in most of the MLS clubs, that you've got these top stars who are up here, and then you're drafting kids from college who are just coming through. So it's trying to find that balance, and we've got to develop the younger players. We need them top players to help develop them and not get too frustrated that they're not at a certain stage where they would have expected them to be when they were in the Premier League. When I first came, I spoke to Ashley Westwood. I didn't know Ashley Westwood before I came here, apart from playing against him. My team's playing against him. And he said to me, listen, when you come over, it's a little bit different, but you've got to embrace it. And he's right. And I've embraced it. And that's the message we've given to Wilf as well. And if you do, I think people buy into you a lot more as well. And, we've got a really good culture at the club now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Anywhere you go, not just football, but just culture as well. Everyone thinks America is as close to England as you can get compared to other countries in the world, but it's still really different in lots of ways. And I think if you don't embrace it, right, Dean, you've got to embrace everything about them. The first couple of years we were here, Thanksgiving, for example, we were just like, what is going on? And we sort of struggled a little bit to kind of put down our Englishness and embrace it. But now, especially we've had a little boy as well, but now we're like, you know what? We are American citizens, but we are just fully embracing it. I think that can change everything when you do that.
Yeah, definitely, because people see that you're in it with them as well, rather than being apart from them, and I think that's really important. We've got family in Jersey who've been over here for 25 years, and they see Thanksgiving as a pre-party to Christmas, but they've embraced it. They're also American citizens now as well, and love it over here. I still won't call a fullback an outside back. No. There's certain things that I just won't do. And I still won't call petrol gas. You can't turn gas into a liquid.
Dean, you will in about 10 years if you're still here, because I said I never do that, and I say to Paul all the time, can you put gas in my car? And then but now when you've been here long enough, you do, your language does just change. But the upper 90 is never the upper 90; it's always the top corner. You're right. There are certain things.
There's certain things that can't change.
Yeah, that forever will stay the same. You've only been here 2 minutes in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of future, you talked there about the differences between the US and the UK, but also how much you love being here. And your son is here, and your wife is here, and you have family in Jersey. Do you see a long future in the United States, or do you still think, I've got a couple of things I want to prove back home?
No, I mean, I've just recently signed a new contract with Charlotte for the next 3 years. So, that was a commitment. The club came and offered me the contract. I still had 2 years left. So I was like, I really appreciate them coming to me, and I spoke to my wife about it. So we certainly see our next 3 years being here. Because it's an expansion club, there's a lot to build. I look back on my career, and I've always been really good at building clubs. When I went into the job at Walsall, at Brentford, at Villa, and really fortunate to have been able to build clubs that way. And I see this as a building job as well, because it's so new. We've got a really ambitious owner, and he's really good, and an ambitious GM as well. So, there's pressure on to make sure that we keep competing, and they want to be competing for trophies, year in, year out. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the 3 years. I spoke to clubs before I came out here in the Championship, and I suppose what was always tough for me, I had the job of doing 3 years at my own club, Aston Villa, who I supported as a kid. After that, it was always going to be tough wherever I went to.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But one of the things everybody knows about you in the game is how good you are at spotting talent. You mentioned some of the clubs you were at and some of the players that you brought to the likes of Brentford, like Ollie Watkins, and look at him now, and Ezri Konsa, and look at him now. Same with Rico Henry. Neil Maupay's had a great career as well. You found all these young stars. So how much now, you mentioned you'll have a GM. How much are you involved in that? Because Phil Neville at Portland, who I spoke to a few weeks ago, he says it's very now much more of a recruitment panel, group, board, if you like, group. But then Greg Berhalter does the sporting director, general manager job himself at Chicago Fire, has help for recruitment. So it feels like on the whole, it's a group thing. Is it for you? Because I'm sure back in the day at Walsall, you were doing most of the recruitment.
Yeah, Walsall, you had to do everything.
Yeah.
pretty much everything. There was only about 5 staff members, but that gave me a great grounding. Also, being assistant with Martin Ling for 4 years at Leyton Orient as well, it gives you such a good grounding. But Brentford was the first time, because anybody who knows how Brentford work, Matthew Benham, the owner there, who I still speak to. His background is on data and gambling, similar to the Brighton owner as well. So I always remember he said to me, listen, I will put players towards you. He said, but you need to tell me that you like them. He said, because if we sign them and you don't play them, I'm just wasting my own money. So it has to be, everybody agreeing, and especially the head coach, because the head coach is the one who's going to go and pick the team.
If you were to divide up the recruitment, how much are you looking at college? How much are you looking at other MLS teams? How much are you looking abroad?
We're looking a bit of everything, to be honest. I mean, the college system is only 2 or 3 kids a year through the draft system. So you're looking at other MLS teams, you're looking at abroad as well, and different markets as well. I mean, we bought some players from the French second division, the German second division. We've got a Croatian goalkeeper who's come in as well. So, there's lots of different areas that you have to bring players in for. South America is a big market for the MLS in particular. I looked at our squad straight away and I felt that we needed a few more US players. I just think when you're playing in the US, it helps to have, some homegrowns, and that's why we ended up reaching out to Tim Ream and bringing in Tim Ream. I like to have, at least as many US players as we can get to blend with the internationals.
You talked about style of play a minute ago, about how it's quite similar across Major League Soccer, a lot of high pressing and a lot of playing out from the back. Gary Neville was a guest on NBC this past weekend with me, and he's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet about this, and he feels that everybody is trying to play the Pep way, and there are other ways to win a football match. There are other ways to within a football match to play. You don't have to play the same way for 90 minutes. And he's getting frustrated that that's happening too much in the Premier League, and at times it's robotic and the players are too micromanaged, and it's just all kind of the horseshoe passing, the back and the forth, the recycling the ball the whole time. How do you feel about that?
The buzzword at the moment is philosophy. What's your philosophy? But any new manager who goes into a game has to win football games. It doesn't matter about philosophy, because your philosophy won't last if you don't win football games. So you've got to go in there and look at your squad first and foremost. And we all have a way that we want to play. But you've got to look at the players you've got first and decide whether you believe they can play that way. And if they don't, I done it last year here. I came here, right? Can we be a more possession-based team? Probably not with the players we've got. I've got 3 really quick lads. So I think if we are well organised in a mid-block, these players need grass to run into to go and score goals. And it worked out perfectly for them, but my job now is, if we have a little bit of success, is to continue then elaborating our game to become more of a possession-based team. Our job is to make players the best decision makers that we can. So, if a team's pressing you really well, then play the other side of it. If there's gaps, then play through it. And that is our job, rather than just say, right, we're going to play out this game, because it might be the best pressing team yet against us, so all of a sudden you're 3-0 down.
Do you get time to watch the Premier League? I mean, in terms as much as you would like to, just because the weekends for Major League Soccer are jam-packed as well, and there's the travel. So how do you fit it into your week, if you do at all, Dean?
the fortunate thing is that the Premier League games are on early morning for us, and our game's normally a 7:30 kickoff on a Saturday evening. I always tell people the biggest difference between UK football and football over here is away supporters and the lack of them. Because of the distance. My first away game, we played Vancouver, and we scored the opening goal, and all you could hear was the players and the staff on the sideline. Otherwise, it was just silent. So you miss that little bit of banter between supporters that you get, in the UK. Although we took 3,500, I think, to Atlanta last year, which was great. Yeah, so our supporters are starting to travel really well, which is good.
One of the other things that, of course, you have to get your head around when you come here, not just the travel, not just the lack of the away fans, but, of course, there's no relegation and obviously no promotion. Your entire life has been spent in a system with promotion and relegation. How long did it take you, Dean, to adapt to not having to worry about it at any point?
I mean, there's still the pressure that you put on yourself. And I knew straight away that there's a massive thing about playoffs in the US. And, I didn't realise how big that was at making the playoffs. I mean, we had as an expansion team, our first home playoff game, and such a big thing was made of it. And I'm like, okay, it's a game, we're in the playoffs. We just, it's just we've qualified. Yeah, but to everybody else, it was quite huge. And again, I've had to learn that a little bit as well. I'd want to win the Supporters' Shield here because that's the consistency of winning, whereas everybody else wants to win the MLS Cup. So I'm having to get my head around that a little bit more.
Both would be nice, Dean. Both would be nice.
Either would be nice.
One of the other things I always think is interesting is the difference in the press and the media, and just what do you see as the difference between the kind of the ladies and gentlemen that would come to your press conferences and be there post-match pre-game, and the way the British media is in football in England, and the way that the US soccer media is?
Yeah, there's a massive difference. In the Premier League, you're always on the back foot, and you're always guarding against that they're after something to sell a story. Whereas here, you actually feel that they're with you, and they just want to genuinely know what you're feeling. And I've been quite honest in all the press conferences, and I get on well with them all. And if we've been bad, I'll tell them we've been poor and why I think. And I think they quite like some of my English sayings that I come out with as well. They'd never heard of twitchy bum time. He was quite interested just introducing them to that.
Just quickly, this weekend, San Diego. They've had another expansion team, the newest franchise. They have done brilliantly to start the season. How are you looking at that one?
Yeah, they have done brilliantly. It's going to be a tough game. I like the way they play. They look really well coached. They've recruited really well. We went to Coachella for pre-season, so I watched them play a couple of times there, and you can see an identity already. So they obviously have a good idea of what they want to be and where they want to go. I think they've played both LA teams already and beat.
Yes, they have. Yep.
Yeah, So but we've won 4 out of 4 already at home. It's a bit of a fortress for us, so we have to make sure that we turn up again.
We're going to be watching, and we're wishing you so much luck. Dean, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time on your day off, and best of luck for the season.
No problem at all, Rebecca. Good to speak to you.
All right, Jamie, to end the show, we've got our second instalment of Challenge Carragher, this new little segment we brought in to test that brain of yours, because it's quite amazing when it comes to football stats, trivia, detail. Last time you got 2 out of 3, which is pretty good considering the questions were ridiculously hard. The It's Cool Soccer community have actually sent in, we've had a ton of questions.
Oh, wow.
We've picked out 3 of our favourites. So let's see how you get on. The first question is from @UnitedRemind. And they say, who scored the very first Premier League hat-trick? And if you need clues, I'm here with clues.
Yeah, I might need a little. So we're talking 92, 93, aren't we? So, I'm gonna need a little bit of a clue.
So it happened in the first month of that season, in August of 1992, in a game between Leeds United and Tottenham Hotspur that finished, if I tell you this, you'll get it. It finished 5-0 to Leeds.
Oh, okay. 92, 93. Okay. Was it Eric Cantona?
Yes, it was Eric Cantona. Well played. I think that's still very impressive, despite having a couple of clues. Okay.
No, but I
question
knew
two.
he went to Man United that season, didn't he?
Yes.
He went a couple of months later, didn't he?
Yeah. So he is the owner of the very first Premier League hat-trick. Question number 2 from @Ellie Name 5 Americans to have played for Fulham, not including Anthony Robinson, because he's currently a player. Former player. There's quite a lot to choose from. I need 5.
Okay. Brian McBride. Did Casey Keller play for Tottenham? Fulham?
Correct.
Tim Ream. Clint Dempsey.
Correct. We need one more. There's 6 to choose from.
You know what? I'm struggling. I can't think of anything.
Okay, so I can offer you. You'll know this. It's Marcus Hahnemann. Remember Marcus Hahnemann in goal?
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that one.
Oh, you wouldn't have. Okay,
No.
Eddie Lewis,
No.
Carlos Bocanegra. You'd have got.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got him. And then there's a couple of others. There's Eddie Johnson, Emerson Heinemann, and Luca Della Torre. So that's quite difficult. But you got 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give that to you as a win. I'm going to give it to you as a win.
We'll take that.
Okay. Yeah. Question 3 from @LouisBoz. Who assisted Luis Garcia's wonder goal against Juventus in 2005?
I think that was Anthony Salah.
Yes, correct. It was. 3 out of 3. 3 out of 3 from Jamie's brain. Keep sending us your questions.
With a couple of clues.
The clues are fine. Challenge Carragher. We will put him to the test again soon. Jamie, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Oh, can I ask you one more question?
Please. Challenge Rebecca, yeah.
Has Gary recovered? I mean, he got absolutely battered, didn't he, by Robbie Mustoe? I mean, he absolutely destroyed him on here. I didn't know if we'd even want him back on Sky. I mean, he's gone over there and absolutely embarrassed us. I mean, he got absolutely schooled.
And the Daily Mail headline was, I think, American pundit shuts down Gary Neville, which was amazing.
Yeah. I was loving it.
I don't. He's off. Well, he's not here today, is he? So I think he might be off the podcast.
He's probably still sick. Is that why he's not turned up?
Yeah, 1,000%.
He's still not recovered from Robbie Mustoe.
No, he's devastated. I know.
He's gone over there to crack America, and he can't even crack Robbie Mustoe. Honestly.
I love it. You've got to hammer him. You've got to hammer him when he comes back on Friday. Cheers, Jamie. Have a good night.
Thank you.
That's all we've got time for then on this episode of It's Called Soccer. Make sure you join us next Wednesday. We're going to do another Major League Soccer special. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your shows, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we will see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye for now.
Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.